Hello students, welcome back to my channel. My name is Ritesh Button, and in this video I'm going to share with you another wonderful story from your supplementary reader in English class 11th, Snapshots. The name of the story is The Address, written by Marga Minko. The Address is a story of a daughter's struggles, that how she suffered to get back her mother's belongings. It's a story of war, and also it tells what distractions do the wars make and how the wars change the minds of people. During the wars or during the difficult times, people find good people and also help. But at the same time, there are the people who are deprived of such good people and help, and instead they face extremely difficult situations and very bad people also. This story moves around a girl who is the daughter of Mrs. S. Mrs. S is found alive in the beginning of the story, but she dies in the first half of the story only. When the war was still on, Mrs. S and her daughter were in extreme risk to be attacked, and therefore Mrs. S decides to give all her belongings to a person called Mrs. Dolling, with the hope that she would return all these things back to them when the war would be settled. But we find Mrs. Dolling becoming greedy, and after the death of Mrs. S, when her daughter goes to Mrs. Dolling's house to take her belongings back from her, she did not show any interest in talking to her, and she directly refuses to talk to her. So this story, The Address, is all about the human predicament that follows the war. The story narrates how a daughter goes to Mrs. Dolling to take her mother's belongings after the war in Holland. In the beginning of the story, it is explained how Mrs. S's daughter was given a cold reception when she goes to Mrs. Dolling's house in search of her mother's belongings. And after ringing the bell of the house number 46 in Marconi Street, a woman opened the door. On being introduced, the women kept staring at her in silence. There was no sign of recognition on her face. The woman was wearing her mother's green cardigan. The narrator was sure that she had made no mistake. She was sure that she had reached at the right address, the same address that was given to her by her mother. Number 46, Marconi Street. She asked the woman if she knew her mother. The woman could not deny that. The narrator wanted to talk to her for some time, but the woman closed the door as she understood the reason of her coming, and therefore she was not interested to talk to her. The narrator remained there for some time and then left that place. In the subsequent sections, the memories of the narrator's past days got refreshed. Her mother had provided the address years ago during the war. She went her home for a few days. She could find that various things were missing. At that time, her mother told her about Mrs. Dolling. She was an old acquaintance of the narrator's mother. Lately, she had renewed her contact with her and had been coming there regularly. Every time she left their house, she took something with her. She told that she wanted to save all their nice possessions. The narrator saw Mrs. Dolling going out of their house with a heavy suitcase. She had a glance of Mrs. Dolling, a lady with a broad back. She asked her mother whether the woman lived far away. At that time, the narrator's mother told about the address, number 46, Marconi Street. After many days, when the war was over, the narrator was curious to take record of the positions that must still be at number 46, Marconi Street. With this desire, she went to the given address. The concluding part of the story describes the second visit of the narrator to Mrs. Dolling's house. As the narrator's first visit brought no result, so she planned to go once again. In her second visit, she found a girl of 15 years at that address, and this girl was the daughter of Mrs. Darling. She opened the door for her. This girl's appearance was similar to her mother's appearance. This girl happily welcomed the narrator. The narrator expressed her wish to wait for her mother. The girl accompanied her to the passage. This girl was friendly in nature and was not talking to the narrator with harsh words because she did not know the purpose of her visit. The narrator saw an old-fashioned iron candle holder hanging next to a mirror. The girl made her sit in the living room and went inside. The narrator was horrified to find herself in a room she knew and she did not know. She found herself in the midst of familiar things which she longed to see again, but which troubled her in the strange atmosphere. She had no courage to look around her, but now she no longer had the desire to possess them. She got up, walked to the door and left the room. Mrs. Darling's daughter, that girl, was very much excited, and in her excitement she was showing almost everything that she had in her house without knowing that all these things once belonged actually to the narrator. The narrator did not introduce herself to the girl. She did not reveal her identity and her purpose of the visit. She was waiting for her mother to come. But after spending time with this girl and after seeing all the things which once belonged to her, all of a sudden she remembers the time of train, and she decided to get out of that house and to move to the station to catch the train. Why she decides to leave that house without meeting Mrs. Darling? Because all these things aroused her feeling and her pain for her lost mother. So she decided not to remember these things anymore because all these things had lost their importance for her, as these things belonged to her mother, and these things would only remind her of a mother. They would only revive her pain. And also she thought that what she could do with these things in a small rented room where only a handful of cutlery would fit in the narrow table drawer. The house where she was now living, it is not her own old house but a small rented room. She resolved to forget the address and moved on. This is the end of the story. I hope you have understood the story well. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Please like this video and share it with your companions. Thank you for watching.